From the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 21st chapter. When Jesus entered the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" Jesus said to them, "I will ask you only one question. If you tell me the answer, then I will also tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin?" And they argued with one another. "If we say from heaven, he'll say to us, 'Why then did you not believe him?' If we say of human origin, we are afraid of the crowd, for all regard John as a prophet." So they answered Jesus, "We do not know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." Then he said, "What do you think? A man had 2 sons. He went to the first and said, 'Son, go and work in the vineyard today.' He answered, 'I will not.' But later he changed his mind and went. The father went to the second and said the same. And he answered, 'I go, sir.' But he did not go. Which one of the 2 did the will of his father?" They said, "The first." Jesus said to them, "Truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are going into the kingdom of God ahead of you. For John came to you in a way of righteousness and you did not believe him. But the tax collectors and the prostitutes believed him. And even after you saw it, you did not change your minds and believe him." The Gospel of the Lord. Everyone in this room knows someone for whom high drama is a way of life. Let's hope you're not that person. And if you are, all I can say to you is, stop it. You are driving your friends crazy. You may never have high blood pressure, but you are a carrier. If you're on the receiving end of one of these relationships, you also know what I mean. An outing to the lyric opera requires more preparation than an excursion to the Australian outback. A simple drive somewhere carries with it more machinations than could be imagined. Should we take your car or mine? You're not going to take that route, are you? It's out of the way. Should I bring a jacket, sweater? What do you think? Are we going to be long? By the time you've answered more questions than are asked at a presidential press conference, you look at your watch and discover that you're running late. And the only thing you want to do is yell, "Get in the car!" What makes these encounters difficult is that you never seem to know where you stand. You have to process questions that you couldn't possibly have thought of. You have to deal with matters that, frankly, do not matter. That's why I have always loved the first son in today's parable. When his dad asks him if it was his intention to go work in the field, he says no. Not maybe, not I'm not sure. He says no. Not happening. No way. While the father may have been taken aback, at least he knew where he stood. Number 1 son is taking the day off. Period. End of story. Number 2 son is one of those crazy makers. He says, "Sure, Dad, I'll help." And then he begins to have second thoughts. Maybe there's an invitation from his friends to go and look at the four colors. Maybe his allergies begin to act up. Maybe he was just going to lie down on a couch for a moment before work, and that moment turned into a 5-hour nap. Who knows what happened? All we know is that the kid his dad was counting on never showed. We could easily turn Jesus' parable into a morality tale on the importance of keeping your word, of letting your yes be yes and your no be no, as Jesus also said. And that is a very important thing. It is what your own personal authority is built on. Can people trust your word? That's a pretty important thing, and it's crucial to maintaining a relationship. If you are like a willow in the wind, changing direction at the slightest breeze, people are going to stop trusting you. They'll stop asking you. Sometimes that might be a good thing, because they'll stop asking you to do things you don't want to do in the first place. But sometimes you'll miss out, because they won't ask you to something that is absolutely spectacular. That's not exactly what Jesus' parable is about. Put in context, it's about something far greater. The setting of today's gospel is important. It occurs a couple of days after Palm Sunday. Jesus had not only ridden into the city in a popular spectacle and driven the money changers out of the temple, but he maintained an audacious claim that the temple, God's house, should be a house of prayer for all people. Not just those who could pony up the money for a sacrifice or two. God's house should be open to everybody. The authorities do what authority figures do best. They ask Jesus what right he has to say such things, because in their eyes, he didn't have any. He hadn't been to the best theological schools, and instead of teaching the Torah, or we might say theology, he told stories that were downright earthy. Worse than that, he touched sick people and lepers, making himself unclean. He was seen in public with women, some of whom didn't have the best reputations, and men who weren't much better. Jesus didn't have any authority in their eyes because he wasn't of the right pedigree, running with the right crowds. He had no right whatsoever to tell them how they should be running their temple. And you know what? In their eyes, they were right. Jesus was the son who looked like he was saying no to God. He had to be, because they were the ones who were saying yes, keeping God's laws, obeying God's commandments, not associating with the wrong people. He couldn't have any authority because, in their eyes, he never seemed to act the way God wanted his followers to act.